Greetings, everyone. Welcome to my another tutorial series on this YouTube channel. With building a dashboard for user. So it'll be mainly rendering all the data from user discords to a web dashboard. The technologies that we are using for this are Python, Flask, HTML, and CSS. So let's dive into a small demo real quick. I'll open my browser and I'll go to this local host route, which is running on my local host server using Flask. And we'll go to the login route. And what will be prompted with that, the user to authenticate with their Discord ID. So you can see there that we'll be accessing their username and avatar and know what server they're in, basically. So we'll go ahead and authorize there. And then the user will be redirected to a nice little dashboard that we have designed here with the user potentially avatar and their name and their user Discord user ID or tag in this case, and then the server they're in. So all the name of their servers and the icon of each of the servers with some nice little buttons if any further development will be taking place. So this is pretty simple, and I try to keep this beginner friendly just to give everyone an overview of how to get started on the Python's web development side. And now quickly, the things that I will not be covering in this short tutorial is that validations. So if there's any errors popping up or that we don't want the user particularly to see, then in that case, we need to handle that, or login information that we want to show them, for example, when they log out or log in, that they have successfully logged in here. Then also in terms of security, we could potentially could do is that route protection, so nobody unauthorized people are accessing to this route and probably not showing some of the information that we're not supposed to show, such as tokens information. And we're also going to touch on a bit that Discord has recommended some of the security features to enable while using their OAuth 2. And but this is a very short tutorial, so it is not possible to cover everything. But however, I will basically letting you guys know in advance that these are the things that you probably want to consider before making this application for your next the Discord board productions, or you're thinking of publishing in for your users. So now let's dive into some of the installation. In terms of prerequisites or requirements for this project, there are not really anything, to be honest, because I am just doing some overview of this piece of tech, and you're most likely to be able to follow this without any problems. So yeah, but please do go ahead if you want to learn Python or even look into Flask, which we are using, which is a microservice framework for Python. If you want to quickly develop, let's say, a web applications without a lot of heavy requirements such as MVC, all the documentation links will be down below in the descriptions. But however, I will walk through now. So what the things that I'll be covering throughout the tutorial in regards to Flask, all the information could be found in this document. So go ahead and take a look. But if you require further understanding or education on this, a book could be or any other course that are available online would be a great help in this case. But I'm planning on doing some more works in the future. So yeah. And the next thing we're going to use on our HTML and CSS for the front end is a bootstrapped components. And so this is something to help quickly build on the go rather than just writing lots of CSS to style our components and the bits and bobs of that we're using. So we're going to use a lot of stuff from here. So the version I'm going to use for this tutorial is Bootstrap 3, so 3.7. So I didn't get some time to get myself familiar with Bootstrap 4 yet. So sorry for that letdown, but I will continue to with the 3.7 here. Now, when speaking of front end, if you have some design in your mind and you want to transform them into a piece of code and then have your end product, then I would say look no further and start using Adobe XD. In this case, so this is one of the design tools where you don't have to spend hours and hours think about your design, so you can actually draw out your designs, all the buttons and the flex box and stuff, and overall the page, whatever you are looking for. And then by looking at the design, then you get to code fluently. These tools really help web developers around the world. And there's another similar tools called Figma, also in this case help you design your applications. So do have a look, see which one fits your needs. And finally, our Bible for this overall tutorial would be the Discord developer documentation. We're going to follow bit by bit of this tutorial, so you must have this alongside when you're building this application, so you will help you making a note down, and I'll be strictly following this while I'm building. At this stage, I assume that you have signed up for a Discord account and you have one. So what you want to do, open your browser and go to discord.com and scroll down all the way where you see some of the more information on the bottom of the page, where under resources, and then you see developers. So we'll go ahead and open that. It might ask you to sign in if you haven't, so please do so. Then what we're going to do from this drop down menu on this side is that right click on the applications and open a new tab. Now the reason because I'm opening, because we're gonna go back and forth between both of them, where we're going to reference our documents and then do something over here while we are writing our applications. Anyway, let's go ahead and create a new application. We're going to call this tutorial bot here. Let's go ahead and create that. So there you go. As easy as that. So we have now a application. So one thing I'm going to quickly go ahead, in case if you're thinking of working further and having a bot, you can do that. So by going to the bot sections and go ahead and add bot, and you will have a bot too. You can invite your bot to your server as well as, but I will be not doing that, because I'm only going to use to authenticate a user and get some of the information from there. So that's it for the setting up, and let's dive into the coding sections and reading the documentations overall. In these sections, we're going to set up our project folders and the packages that we need. So let's go ahead and open up Python or whichever text editor that you have available. It's going to take me some time to load. And here I have the welcome to Python. From here, we're going to select new project. Going to have pure Pythons. Let's drop down the menu over here real quick. and you can select your designated folders where you would like to see your project, which will be something like this. In my case, it's desktop. So I'll go ahead and change the name of the project. So I'll name something Discord dashboard. Simply you can go and set up your new environment just by clicking over here, new environment, set up whichever the virtual environment you would like. We have Conda, Pipe env, Pip env, virtual env, and select your interpreters, and you can also inherit global site packages if you just want to go. But in this particular case, because not everybody probably would download this software and use it, so for them I'm gonna do some ground setup and manually set up my projects, folders and environment, and install the packages. So for that I'm gonna choose previously configured interpreter. So in this case, this is whatever you have here. So either Python 2 or 3 I have here. You can go ahead and create main.py welcome script. I'll leave that out because I'm just gonna do everything from scratch. So go ahead and create. Now you can skip the part where I'll be setting up the virtual environment if you just want to straight get into the main work. But do note that you would still need to install some of the packages that I'm going to install in here. I'll leave also the link down below so that you can guide yourself quickly into that. So let's go ahead and open the terminal from the bottom sections here. And I'm going to set up my environment. So it's Python 3 -m, which is -m, vem, then tutorial environment, so env. So that's the name of my environment, and I should be seeing my environment. Yep. Now I'm going to activate my environment. So for Windows, you basically going to first call your environment name here, which is in my case tutorial-env, env, and then you're gonna do \, then you're gonna do S with the capital scripts, so then \, and then activate .bat. So to activate your environment in this case, for Linux and Mac OS, we're going to simply do source and then my name of our environment in this case. Oh God, if I can spell. And then /bin /active, so activate, and let's go ahead and activate. So you can see my environment has been activated now. So within this environment now, what I'm going to do is install. You can see our environment has popped up right here, so it's cool. So now we're going to install the packages that we need. The first thing first we're going to install is pip install Flask. Just to let you know, in case when you put in pip for Linux and Mac OS, try pip 3. So in that case, it should resolve your issues too. For Windows, pip should be fine. The next thing we're going to install is the request library. So pip install request. Perfect. And the very last one, we're going to install our environmental files where .env we're going to use to capture some of the credentials in them. So for that, pip install python -env. So let's go ahead and push enter here. Perfect. So we have now all the required installation packages that we need into our within our environment. So let's go ahead and now create our project folder structure real quick. So that we just get to add files later, or even work on the files rather than worrying about all of them later. So I'm gonna go ahead and right click on the main folder, and gonna go and create directory, and call this directory routes, and gonna create new directory again, and I'm going to call this templates. Within the templates, I'm going to create another directory and going to call includes. And let's go ahead and create. I guess that should be fine for us. Yeah, we're going to need one for our CSS. So let's go ahead and create a static folder. Perfecto. So I'm gonna quickly fill these out so you can see why I have so many folders within the folders. And don't worry, throughout the rest of the tutorial, I'll explain why I had these structures and how the folders are settled. So let's go ahead on static, create a new file, and we're gonna call this style.css. And yep, that should be fine. I'll close out. Okay, you can do not suggest. Okay, and go to your templates. Let's create new an HTML file, and the first HTML file we're going to call it dashboard. Yeah, so this is something like if you have used VS Code like Emmet, so it kind of gives you a boilerplate. But you can obviously, we're gonna modify that further down. We'll go ahead and close this, and I'm gonna create within the templates folder. I'm gonna create another HTML file, and I'll call it layout. Again, I'll close this. Now I'm gonna go to includes to this folder and right click and new, and then create a new HTML file, and I'm gonna put underscore and gonna call navbar. So is the nav bar on the top, navigation bar. So let's close this. So that's for these files. We will come to that later in the tutorial sections. So now what we can do is go ahead and create our file that the server file that we will be running in the Python for Flask. So we're gonna call that app, right? And yeah, and let's quickly set this up, all these files, and just bit of maybe 1 or 2 lines of code so that they're not empty, otherwise they might throw an error. So I'm gonna import some of the potential things I'm gonna use from Flask. So I'm gonna say from Flask import Flask, comma, request, comma, then redirect, I believe, redirect, yeah, comma, and then render template. Yeah, I'm gonna have to render the template. So that's it from Flask, I believe. Okay, and then let's initialize the app. App is equal to Flask. Okay, and then let's call this. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake. And then call. And then I can we can quickly do 2 routes, which is basically we're gonna say that when we're gonna redirect from some page, which is landing page or something, user's gonna go to the login page, and then from login page to dashboard page, right? So first thing first is route that provides home, not home, in this case kind of like a home, but we'll say route for index page, right? And this index page also provides user login capabilities, right? And let's implement the route. So to do that, we're going to say app.route and then open parentheses, and we're going to put our route where to go. So basically whatever the URL, and after that it's going to have a route. So basically login, and then the methods is going to take equals, it's going to be get. So we're going to get some of the, we're going to use the get method for this one. And let's define our function now. So define login. Okay. And we're gonna return something, but for now I'm gonna just pass, because I want this to kind of redirect the user to the actual authentication of the login process from Discord. So that's what I'm looking into. So the next one is going to be route for dashboard, pretty much. So, and then we're going to call again the app.route. And within there, we're going to pass in dashboard, comma, and the methods is also going to be get. Methods is equal to get. Right, and let's define the function. We're going to pass it. So that's okay so far. And let's do our main methods. So basically, if name equals to main, then basically do app.run. And we're also gonna have to debug our code. So we want to output if there's an error. So let's set debug to true. So yeah, that should do it. Reformat. Yeah, that's fine. So go ahead and save this. This is just a template we just have started, so not to worry. There are a lot more things gonna be added later on. So let's go ahead and save all. Close this file. And now I want you to go to your developer documentation real quick and go scroll down on this side and find OAuth 2. And now here, carefully give it a read. You can pause this video and see, you can dilute some of the information first of all. So from I'm just going to summarize all the information. So basically what we have to do, we have to send some of the information in order to get the access token. And within that, you using that access token, we're going to retrieve all the information that we're looking for. That's in a nutshell. So you can see all the stuff that are passed in. And there's some response body also that we can expect to get, basically. So right, and another state and security sections. I highly recommend you to read this. This gives a lot of information about avoiding cross-site request forgery and CSRF and click hijacking stuff. So how you can prevent the other people to take over your applications, because when you're going to have a large set of bot where you're handling a lot of users, imagine users getting harmed or their server, which is the Discord has a zero tolerance policy on that, so you could get potentially shut down. So please do have a look. So we're gonna have to pass in some of the information, and to do that, we're gonna have to design some sort of request format. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So on our routes, we're gonna create a new Python file, and let's call this Discord auth. Right. On Discord auth, what we're gonna do is import some of the libraries. So let's go ahead and import OS. Okay, it's small. And then obviously the request, where we're going to use this library to request some of the information from the API itself. And also we have, I believe we're gonna need 2 of the credentials here. Sorry guys, I'm just trying to be a little bit quick. I know if I take time, the video is gonna get stretched. So we're gonna need a client ID and client secret. And a client ID and client secret, you can go to your developer applications and you can see here's your client ID and here's your client secret. So you're gonna need these 2 credentials to pass in with the other, like such as scope and etc. and whatnot, the request URI or URLs. So let's go ahead and format these first, and then we'll come back. So to this file, I'm gonna import, so let's first, because we spoke about that, the credentials, let's go ahead and create a one file that we left out, which is .env. And within that env file, we're gonna call for client, we're gonna store client ID. And the next thing we're gonna store is the client secret, right? Because we need that to authenticate. So client secret. Fine. So go ahead and save this. I'll close this terminal from below so you can see it, and let me squeeze this a bit more so it's visible. And let's go ahead and copy while we are here. So let's go and copy this one here, then go back to browser again, and let's copy the client secret and paste it here. Fine, let's go and save the file and close this one out. Now we acquired that credentials. Let's go ahead and import, and we'll come back to structuring the OAuth requests. So let's go and say, from .env import load.env. So, and we're gonna load the env path. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a class here. Class called Discord auth, yeah, auth, and yeah, sorry, yeah, that should do. And now let's have a look at the requirement information that we're gonna need again. Once again, let's go back to the documentation. So we're gonna need client ID and secret. And then we're gonna have something like the redirect URI. So redirect URI is basically from our local host. We're gonna redirect. So everything's gonna get redirected to localhost because that's our user end. So we're gonna have to add that too in a minute. But let me go ahead and initialize this too first, and then we do bit by bit basically. So the client ID is equal to os.get env, and then it will be client ID. Yep, that's the one I need. Then let's go ahead and do our next one, which is client secret os dot, and then get I think it's, well, yeah, it was get env, right? So we're gonna do client secret here. So client, and then select that. So these two are done, and then the next one we were talking about, the redirect URI. Redirect URI. So in this case, obviously the application will run in our local host. Local is nothing but an your 127.0.01. Basically, that's the IP address for your local host. So let's go ahead and type that in. So 127.0.0.1. And now the port, basically, so you have to, this information has to be forwarded to a port. The port you can use basically the ones are not in use. So such as that you have a HTTP port, you have a TCP port. These ports are reserved in your computer, so you cannot use them. So you can use something other than, as long as they are not within that range of numbers, you will be fine. So in this example, I'm going to use something like 3000 / and then we want to redirect all the information to dashboard. Okay, that goes this far. Now the Discord doesn't know this yet, right? So for that, we have to add this redirect to our Discord application. So let's go ahead and copy this. Go here to a portal. You will see over 2 sections right here, and it has a redirect. So let's go ahead and add this redirect real quick. And not add another. So, and then basically you select your redirect here and save changes. That's what I mean. So now it has been selected. So we'll come to the scopes in a minute, because we have to pass in what are the information that we want to actually request for. So we'll come to that in a minute. So let's go back to the PyCharm real quick, and let's have a look what is the next thing that we need. So we got the API client ID, client secret, and redirect URI. I can see it requires API endpoint to do that. But before that, I want to do something like a login URL. So basically, there should be a login URL and token URLs. So basically, when there's somebody's gonna be logging in, they need, well, all the information are going to be parsed into that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we're going to come back and retrieve the code and the access code. So with the code, it's going to give us a token, and then from that token we're going to get the access token. Apologies for that. So let's go real quick here, and I designed that piece of information. So first thing first, within the information that we're going to request, we're going to pass in some scope, right? So I'm going to leave that empty right now, and I'll come and show where to get that from. So let's do login URL, and let's go back here and to the application real quick. So the scopes we are looking for, we want to identify a person, and at the moment we're just gonna pass in identifying, and then basically according to our demo we also have to retrieve information for guilds, right? And we can actually do that right now if we want. So we can copy both of them, and this will give us some sort of to go and ask for this information, and throughout this URL it's going to design some URL for us. So we'll go ahead and copy this and come back here and paste within our login. Now, 2 things we have to modify here, because we said our scopes should be here, right? So we don't want our scope to be here, right? So we're going to go ahead and move that. And let's cut that bit, and let's put parentheses there. I will come back into that and paste it here. So identify and guilds, these are the 2 information that we're going to acquire from it. And this %20 is nothing but a space, basically. So, and we're going to put f string literal. So because we're going to pass in the scope, we need to use a variable literals. So we're going to say scope, right? And we're going to have to pass in the client ID. You can see this is a hard-coded client ID here. So we're going to remove that and put a parenthesis there, and going to call our client ID here, right? And the next but not least is the redirect URI. So basically where we are redirecting our information, we have the URL here. So all we have to do is remove that up to the response, and then put a parenthesis. So just within there, basically not to take away the response, because response type is the next thing, and then code and scope followed by that. So we're going to call that redirect URI over here. So we're basically calling our URL right over here. And that should be for this URL. So this is a request that we're going to send to get our authorization and login done. And now we're going to also need something. So let's have a look. We're also going to need something like a token URL, I believe so. So let's go back to our code real quick and do that. Guys, please do read the documentation, because it's not really easy for me to like really dive into each of the sections and kind of show it within that given time. So token URL equal to, and now we're going to need that token, right? So the token, we're going to need that. So let's go and find that token real quick. So this is our token URL. So let's go ahead and copy that. And paste it there. Perfect. That goes for the, and I think one last information that we're going to need, if we scroll down a little, which is the API endpoint, right? So let's go ahead and copy this API endpoint. And back to the, and then pass in here. So API just go endpoint equals to, that's it. So I believe that this is enough to get the access code that we're looking for. And let's write a method that will do that call, and then we can actually redirect to this URL and test it out. Right, so I'm gonna type it. This is something called Python decorators. So if you want to have something like a static method, you do this, and then we're gonna define and call this get access tokens, because we're gonna use this method to do that. And we're gonna pass in the code. So once we authorize ourselves and get some code, and we can then actually do this, right? So first thing first, we need to get a code and then access token. Yeah, that's fine. So as per the logic, basically. So access token URL equals to Discord auth. So we're gonna call the class, and then token URL. So this is the URL we're gonna pass in, right? And then access token itself is equal to, and we're gonna say request. So we're gonna now send a request dot post method. Within that post body, we're gonna pass in the access token URL. So basically that URL and then a comma, and then the parameters that is required to do so. So basically data is equal to, so we're gonna pass in client ID, client secret, and grant type, I believe. So client ID, client secret, and the basically the redirect URI and the scope. So you can actually go ahead and copy this if you want to make your life a little bit easier. So I'm going to do that too, because these are the information I'm acquiring from there. So let's go ahead and paste it here, and we're just going to change these according to our, so we know that we have our client ID, Why is it not doing it? It's right, and then client secret. And then authorization code. So that's now we pass in just the authorization code, and the code is equal to the code. Redirect URI will come from here and identify the scope basically. So I'm just going to remove that and call our scope here. Right, perfect. And now let's see what's the issue here. Okay, yes, so they're within a class, right? So we're gonna have to call that request dot client ID. Yep, that should do it. So I'm just gonna copy this bit and paste it here and here and here. So basically, because we're calling from a class, and basically we're going to inherit the information that we need. So that should be fine because I just copied it and it shouldn't have an issue. But if there is, obviously we can take a look at the error and do that bit. And that's it for this method. So let me just comment this one out real quick so that we know what it does. Get access token for this method, right? And also we want to load into some format, right? So we want to return this to a JSON format basically. So that should do this. And let's return it. So return access token dot get, and then basically we're gonna get the access token. So that should do basically. So we have got the method, pass in all the required information, pull down the JSON, and then return whatever the access token is returning. Okay, so let's go ahead and save. If there's any, I'm just trying to think of my head. If there's any bug, I'm gonna get it. So now to this app part. So obviously this is gonna be pretty simple. We're basically redirecting to user to there. So we're gonna return redirect. So we're going to call the redirect here, and we're going to call. So first, let's import what we just finished off. So from routes dot discord auth import discord auth, right? And let's call this here. So discord auth dot login URL. So we want to, the URL that we designed, we just want to send the user to there basically to authenticate themselves. So Discord takes care of that. And yeah, so that should be fine. And the next thing we want to do is return our access token, because we're going to need that access token in order to access some of the information of the user. So let's go ahead and let's implement that here before we run the code, and I will shortly run the code, so not to worry. So the code, we're going to first have to get the code, I think. So yeah, we have to get the code and then get the access token from the code basically. So we're going to do request.arguments and then get the code, and then get me access token from the code basically. So access underscore token equals to discord auth dot get access token, because that's the method, I believe. Yeah, that's the one. And let's go ahead and pass in the code variable itself. So now we can, before we call this method, we can actually quickly test that if we are getting the code, because if not, it's going to totally send the error out. So we can return the code here, and let's go ahead and save. And I think we're good to go to give it a little test. So I'm gonna go right click on app.py and then go ahead and run. And you can see the service should start. 127.5000. Okay, that's what I didn't ask for. I'm not sure if it's. So let's have a look. Set 127.0.13000. Let's have a look. We'll come back to this. I want to see which one it is, basically, because that's the one I'm very is sending. Copy, paste it here, and then we're gonna send it to login route. Right, so basically it's okay. So I think this route needs to be in a 5000. So basically I think there's Flask runs on some sort of default 5000 here. So let's go ahead and change that. So that's not a problem. So 5000, and I guess we have to modify that bit over here, which is right over here. Right, and let's take a look again. Is that HTTP 127.0.0.1 and then colon 5000? Yeah, that should be fine. Sorry guys, it's just that is back of your mind. Yeah, that should be fine. Right, let's go to 5000. Right, what is it now? I'll close. Oh, okay, I'm not running the application. Let's go ahead and run. And I'm just gonna copy again, just in case. Then do login. Okay, so invalid OAuth to redirect URI. So I think there's something's wrong. Okay, let's have a look. The redirect URI real quick. So HTTP 1275 dashboard. Yeah, that should be enough for that. Let's have a look at the bug real quick. So redirect to dashboard. So we're in the login, and then methods is equal to get login, return, redirect. Just got the auth login URL. Yeah, I just want to go to the login. Okay, so login URL. I just want to probably have to double check that, see if I made a mistake here. So Discord API auth authorize client ID is equal to client ID, and then redirect URI is equal to redirect URI, and the response type. So yeah, okay. Oh, right, there's a mistake. And response underscore type is equal to code, and scope is equal to scope. So yeah, let's go ahead and save the file. Let's go run. Let's do the authentication again. So localhost login 5000. And let's wait for some response here. Perfect. So there's my account, which is devstriker7034. And what we're going to do, access your username and avatar, know what server you are in, basically. So I'm cool with it. And there you go, our token. So basically our the code we require in order to get the access token, it actually responded us with the code. So now we know there are no errors, and we should be good to go and get that too. So I'm going to stop this and let's uncomment this just to be sure. So I'm going to pass in the code, and let's see if I can get the access token too. Go ahead and save all, then run. And I guess we'll go back to the login route because we want to redirect there, and which will redirect to the actual authentication process. And yeah, all good. Let's wait to authorize ourselves. And there you go. So now we have got our access token. Fine. So now with this access token, we can actually access all the information that we need in order to fulfill our overall app. So I'll go ahead and close this. And let's go back to the documentation. So that's for the authentication part. But there are another thing that I would want to quickly remind that you see I'm not implementing any other bits and bobs. So if you read it, you will find out that there are a lot of things that you can do with the state, and also the refresh token. There's another thing you should consider. So I'm just going to leave that out because of the time that I have for this tutorial. So let's go ahead and get the basic information that we need before we move into our further parts. So the information that we need to retrieve is the username and ID, if you can recall. So to do that, if you scroll up a little bit, and you will see the user under resources. There's a user, and you can see all the user objects, and that are the things that we can call in order to receive those information. So I can see if you use this API routes, which is user/me, which will then basically return all the username and avatar that we're going to need, and then followed by the guilds information from that user. So let's go ahead and quickly implement that while we are here. So I can see we need to pass in some of the information and whatnot. Example of the user. So it's a really good documentation there. So let's go here and back to our OAuth over here. So we have got the access token. So now with the access token, we're going to get the user now, right? So let's go ahead and quickly implement that. Again, we're going to do Python decorator for static method and define get user, and then within there we're going to pass in because access token. Without the access token, we will not be allowed to get any information. Right, let me close this one down so you can see. And now we're gonna get some sort of user object, right? So user object is equal to request.get. Right, and we're gonna pass in the URL. So this is the URL we're gonna pass in, and I think there are some authorization headers that needs to be passed into. So yeah, there's some authorization header we need to pass in, which is a bearer token, if I correctly remember. So it's a long documentation, guys. When you say something really specific and to go and specifically find that, it's just not within the time. So let's go ahead and because I know in the back of my mind that I have to do that in order to get this string literals. So I'm gonna call the Discord OAuth class, and within that I'm gonna get the API endpoint, which is this one, and then within there I'm gonna pass in so here we're gonna pass in user/@me basically, and I did single code there. Fine. And the next one we're gonna pass in with the header authorization header. So basically we're gonna say headers equals to, and then the authorization. So AUTHORIZATION authorization, and then bearer token. So R-E-R, I believe that's the spelling, and then modulus, which is the string format. I want that. And then pass in the access token, basically. Cool. Yeah, that should be fine. And let's do the JSON object here. And finally, we can return. So is your user object. Yeah, that should be good. And let's scroll down. Let's just push this and say this is the get user method. So get user object, basically. Yeah, that should be fine. Let's go ahead and save. And let's come here real quick and remove. So we don't have to return that anymore. So we're going to use that information in order to return the next information that we're looking for, which is user name and the tag. Basically, that's what we're going to return. So let's call again the user object is equal to this. Let's call the Discord auth class dot get user method, and we're going to pass, and get user method takes access token, right? So we're going to pass that access token there. And now what we're going to do is basically get the username and user tag. And yeah, so let's have a look. What's the what we have to pass in? So I know that this is user ID, that's the username, and I believe it's for the tag, and they have, yeah, so basically they have described here which I want. So username is the username and not unique across the platform, and the 4-digit Discord code, so that's the one discriminator we need to pass. Okay, perfect. So let's go ahead and do that. And we're gonna pass in username, comma, and user tag. Right. And yeah, so let's call the user object again. User object dot get, and then we're gonna get username here, comma, and for the next one is let's call the user object again dot get method, and then get the discriminator right here. So let me just quickly double check out. Yeah, so let's copy this while we're here and come back and paste it here. So yeah, that should return our username, right? So I believe it's it actually said that it's not going to pass in some sort of tag that we usually have, right? You know what I'm talking. Those who have used the Discord, and so I'm gonna call that username, and then pass in the hash, which is like a tag, and then gonna call in the user tag here. Right, so that should, after we authenticate, this is the logic. After we authenticate, we pass in this and then return the username and tag. So let's go ahead and save that real quick and play this. So running on this pod, right? Okay, and let's do login. I'm gonna check on that port numbers, guys. I believe there's because it's been a little long, I can recall Flask some of the stuff. I'm probably gonna have to read again. So tutorial, okay, yeah. Let's go ahead. Perfect. So now it has returned the dev striker and the tag, and I can confirm that by going to my Discord application real quick. And you can see my tag right here, which is dev striker. Let's disable this, and then there's a tag 7034. Perfect. So we managed to pull this one So it's perfectly fine now. So the next thing we're going to do is basically I think I'm not gonna do further testing, because that from this onwards it's perfectly fine. And then next, get the guild information, so the guild object. And once I have it, then I'm gonna render this to my HTML templates, and we're gonna then design our templates with CSS and the bootstrap. Okay, see you on the next part, guys.